talk UVA. We're exploring, learning, growing each day. From the classrooms to the online space, every learner finds their place. Teachers, mentors, guiding your way. Let's talk UVA. Join today. Let's talk UVA. All together now. We're connected, yeah. You know how. Let's talk UVA. We're exploring, learning, growing each day.
How appropriate it is for us today to have our testing director, a director of assessment, Ms. Ethel Teer. Ms. Teer, it is such a pleasure to have you with us.
I am honored to be with you.
Great. And look, we have so many questions and we like to keep our families informed. So we don't pick on any one department. We kind of like grill all of our guests. But we need to know. These are things we need to know. So first question is very simple. How are parents notified about testing locations and when their student is scheduled for testing?
If a student is scheduled for testing, a letter will be uploaded into their Canvas account, which includes the date or dates that they are testing, the site they are testing, some general information about testing, and then also the time which they are to be there. They will also receive a notification from our communications department when this letter is uploaded, so they will know where to find it.
Okay, next question.
So, Ms. Teer, as you can imagine, we have, some existing families, some returning families, but also a lot of new families. So can you kind of paint a picture for us, like upon arrival, what does a typical testing day for these students look like? Just kind of paint a picture for us.
Okay, when you bring your student to testing, you will walk your student in if they do not drive themselves to the testing site. And when you come in, the students will check into the facility. If you bring your child in, of course the grades 3 through 8, you will see a UVA staff member that will be there to greet you. They will sign your student in, and then there will be test administrators, which is UVA staff, possibly a third-party proctor, that will then take your child and escort them to the class in which they will test.
And what about the IDs, the lanyards with the IDs, or attire, clothing? What should students wear, just dress comfortably? But can you paint a little picture for us about that too?
Sure. Make sure your students wear school-appropriate attire. If you were going into a brick-and-mortar classroom, the same type of attire, but you do not have to wear uniforms. That is a question we get oftentimes. Do they have to wear a uniform? No, they do not. As far as IDs, if a student is in grade 3 through 8, or if they do not drive themselves to the site, the parent can check the student in using their ID, but if they have a student ID, please have them bring that because that does make the check-in process much quicker. And if your child drives themselves to the testing site, they will need to present their ID to check in.
Thanks, Ms. Teer.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Teer. I want you to explain testing accommodations that are available with students with diverse learning needs. How are they implemented at the testing site?
Sure. We do have a lot of students that receive accommodations, and if your child has an IEP, an IAP, or 504, or an EL plan, all the accommodations they receive in the classroom, they will receive on testing also. But just a word for a lot of our new families, sometimes we are in this online environment, so you don't think your child may have had a plan when they were in the school system, and you think, oh, well, they're home all the time, they don't need this extended time, and you don't realize right until testing time that we actually need to know about those plans. That way we can then make sure the plan is current and make sure that your student does receive those accommodations for testing.
Awesome. So what happens if a student must take medication during the day while they're testing?
That is a very good question. If a student has to have medication during the day, a parent will need to stay close by because the parent will need to come in at the time the medication is due to administer it to the student.
Thank you so much, Ms. Teer.
Okay, thank you. I'm next. I do want to elaborate a little bit more about Mr. Santamont's question about what it looks like for the day. So we kind of got to the point of like, once they check the student in and the student goes to the testing room, what happens next? Like, what do the parents do? When will the student be finished? How will the parents know? Can you kind of build a little bit on that?
Sure. One good thing that we do have is a communication that each site coordinator, who is the UVA staff member that is responsible for that site, they are able to send messages out to the parents at the location. So this message may come, I know some divide them into color groups, and so you know your child is in purple and yours is in blue, so you may have a 3rd grader, you may have an 8th grader, because of course we know that all different grades have different times. So you may get a text message that says, blue group is starting on the last session, it is 45 minutes long, please make your way, to the testing site. In most locations, there is not a place for parents to stay on site, but usually there's libraries or something like that close by. And so whenever it is time, when testing is over and your child is released from testing, you will get a message from that site coordinator that test is completed and you could come in to check out your student. They are never left alone. They are never left in a classroom by themselves. They don't even go to the restroom. So rest assured that at the site, our staff treats your child just like their child. So they're never left by themselves.
Thank you. That's very helpful. What does a student need to bring with them when they come to testing?
Good question. First of all, their UVA laptop and charger. And please make sure, I know a lot of you at home, your child may work on a different computer and not the UVA issued computer. Making sure that you restart the computer and complete all of the updates, because that's really important. That way they can begin testing right on time and not have to take time to do that. They can also bring a light snack. We do ask nothing with nuts because of the allergy, a small water, and a light jacket, because oftentimes these locations are cold. They can bring that in a book bag or a backpack, but please know that they will probably have to leave that bag in the front of the classroom or under the desk.
Okay. What if the computer is broken or there's a missing charger? How would they resolve that?
If the computer breaks, please make sure to contact MIS, the support desk, immediately so they can get your child another computer as soon as possible. But if it's just a day or two before testing and there is not time to replace that computer, we do have some computers that we send to the sites. So we would offer your child one of these computers, but it would be for testing only. They could not bring that computer home with them. And as far as chargers, please send your child's charger, but if you do not, we do have some that is sent out to the sites. So if your child's battery becomes low, we can plug it in.
We have a backup plan.
Yes, we do.
So a lot of what we've talked about has been about LEAP testing, but we also know that Louisiana requires our kindergarten through 3rd grade students to do additional testing. Can you talk a little bit about the literacy and numeracy testing for kindergarten through 3rd grade?
Sure. I am sure a lot of those parents are now, the teachers are reaching out to you to schedule their middle of year evaluation or the screener. That is required 3 times a year. The first time is at the beginning of the year within the first 30 days of the school year. And then the middle of the year is in the month of December, and end of year is in the month of April. For the beginning and the middle of year, we do have a remote option, so the teachers can give that from their home, the students can stay in their home. However, for end of year, K-3 must also be in person for the numeracy and the literacy screener. And that is something your teachers or someone in elementary admin would be working with the parents to schedule, and then you will receive a letter uploaded also.
And I've noticed last year, the same site, a lot of the same sites that we were doing for our LEAP testing, we had the elementary students coming in to do their literacy and numeracy testing at the same time.
Correct. And this year it isn't the same week as high school testing, but it will be in the same locations as we have all of the other testing.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. That's just a lot of very valuable information. But one thing we haven't addressed is, AI, and we know that our students tend to have the smartwatch and the smartphones and the smart glasses. Will they be able to maintain those devices?
That is a very good question. When your child checks in the mornings, someone will ask if they have a smartwatch or if they have a phone on them. And if they do, we have masking tape. They take masking tape, your child writes their name on it, and those are collected at the sign-in desk. They are put in a secure locked box until the end of testing, and whenever your child is being released from testing, their phones are given back to them, or their watches, whatever they may have. If your child does have the glasses, and if they are prescription glasses, they will have to turn off the recording portion of those glasses, the capability to do that.
And no earbuds either, right?
No earbuds.
So, in addition to that, and I know this comes up all the time, when we get our notifications and we see that this testing site, for example, is here in Baton Rouge at the administration building, but I may be closer to the site in West Baton Rouge. Is there a way to change locations? And if so, what process would we follow?
On the letter that you receive, and you can request that, that's a very good question. On the letter you receive, there will be an email at the bottom. It is either high testing or middle testing or elementary testing. So whichever grade band you fall into, you would email them, and you will be sent directions where you would then request that change in the app, which is very useful. Now, please realize that all of the locations we use do have a predetermined amount of space that we could use. So it all depends on the number of students, the accommodations and such at these locations. So your child may be closer to West Baton Rouge, but due to maybe they are an individual tester, or we have too many students there because the state this year has really narrowed down the number of students in a group. So we are needing more rooms. So you may not be scheduled to test at the location closest to your home, but we do try to keep the students within an hour of their home. So driving within an hour to get to the testing site.
So do we have some questions from our audience? With special dietary restrictions, what should students do with special dietary restrictions?
We have had several of these in the past, and what you would do is that same email that is on the bottom of the letters, where I just mentioned that you would request a site change. If you would send a message there, they will tell you, of course, you still cannot send a large lunch, but it may be you would send a banana or something like that. And because we have had that in the past where they possibly couldn't have cheese or, lactose intolerant, so they would send something else. So just reach out to whichever school level, and we will do everything we can to accommodate and make sure that the site coordinator knows of that special need.
Oh, are there breaks between tests?
They do have a short break. Usually what they allow is in between 1 or 2 sessions, they will let them go to the restroom, and once again, they will be escorted by staff. And then also in between the other sessions, they may have like a 5 to 6 minute break. They may get up, stretch, do some little jumping jacks, something to get the blood flowing again, and then they would sit down for the next session.
Hoodies.
If your child wears a hoodie, they will not be allowed to keep the hood on. It will have to be where their face can be seen.
Okay. So how many days is leak testing typically?
For grades 3 through 8, we are trying a new model this year. It was sort of a loosely adhered to last year whenever we had the weather issue. So what we are having this year is 4 days for grades 3 through 8. On Monday, you will have ELA or math. On Tuesday, you will have the other of that subject. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, you will have the social studies and the science. So you will test all sessions of one subject during a day rather than, as in previous years, you may have had an ELA and a math. You're going to have the entire subject. For high school, there are 7 courses for which you have a LEAP test, and that would be English 1 and 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Civics, Biology, and U.S. History. If your child is enrolled in any of those courses, they will be scheduled for the LEAP test. For high school, you do take the entire test for a subject in 1 day. So if your child is enrolled in 3 of those courses, they would come 3 days.
That's great information. And the other, because it's so close with December being high school fall league testing, and those notices we know have already been uploaded. So tell us about that test. What determines if a student has to take the test in the fall?
In the fall, we have certain courses that do have they're a block course, and these courses are usually honors courses, and they are for those same subjects. I think they have Algebra 1, English 1, and Biology this semester. So if your child is in an honors course, they would be scheduled for the fall LEAP. We also have work keys that is being held in the fall also. That would be if you are enrolled in the course or if you've previously taken the test and you may have not scored to earn that credential, you would be scheduled again. And for the LEAP, referring back to that, if you're not in one of those courses, it may be that you have taken the LEAP and didn't make a satisfactory score. And that is a graduation requirement for high school, so we do continue to reschedule you until you make at least an approaching basic.
Any other questions?
If a student is new to testing, say a third grader that will be taking LEAP for the first time, or maybe a student that's just moving into public school from home study or private school, what is a way that parents can help prepare that student to know like what the format of the test looks like, the timed portions, those types of things? How could a parent prepare a student for that?
The teachers will be assisting and working with students in their live lessons. They should be using the type of questions that you would see on LEAP. One thing I do encourage students, if you're parents, if your students or they maybe like to move around a lot or something like that, that's usually the biggest issue we find is a student needing to sit still for 60 minutes. Because they're not used to doing that. Because I know my children were enrolled here. When they had to go to the restroom, when they wanted a snack, you got up, you pressed pause, you got up, you went and got what you wanted, and you went and sat back down at your desk. You know, you took a little break for lunch. So just making sure that you kind of begin to work with them, because on the letter, on the back of the letter that you receive, or on the second page for grades 3 and 8, it does include how long each test will be and how, you know, basically how many minutes per day. So you can start working with your children to, you know, sit, okay, I see, well, you won't be able to stand up for 45 minutes. So, you know, let's start working on that. That way they kind of get into the vein of sitting for a little while longer.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you talk about how LEAP and how it is accounted for in the students' grades, especially like high school?
Yes, for high school, it is 15% of their grade each time they are enrolled in the course. And so it can make a huge difference in a grade. So making sure that your student is there to participate. For grades 3 through 8, it may not be a part of their grade at this time, but it does identify where your child may need additional help. And on that note, at the beginning of the following year, that is where it is determined if your child needs additional interventions, if they need some help, is by looking at those LEAP scores and saying, it looks like they struggled a little bit here. We need to contact the parent to see, you know, maybe they need some reading help or maybe they need some math intervention. So it's really important that they do participate so you can tell what additional help your child may need.
I'm glad you addressed that like that, because very often our parents are apprehensive about their students testing, and they, you know, why do they have to test? And you've already established it's a state rule. We must test as a public school. But very importantly, it helps us know where our students are and how we can better work with that student so that they can be successful for future careers in college and beyond. So those are very good, insightful responses, Ms. Teer. And we have another question coming in. What if a student finishes testing before time is up?
The student sits there. They are, of course, encouraged to review their answers simply because, as we know, some students do finish very quickly. So we do encourage them, are you sure? Don't you want to review your answers? And in a large group, the students do have to wait until everyone is finished in the group or the time expires, whichever of those come first.
So in other words, students are not going to be permitted to just, I finish and get up and walk out.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, and the other thing, and I heard you say this earlier, is we maintain control of the students at all times. So the parents must come back to check their child out.
Correct. And that's why it's important to make sure you watch the messages from the site coordinator, because if you are 45 minutes away, you know, and you wait until the 45 minutes, they say your student will be finished in 45 minutes and you leave your home in 45 minutes, then your child, who is perhaps already apprehensive and they're not used to being away from you, they are waiting after all of the other students leave. And you know, that in itself can create some anxiety. And your child will never be left alone at a site. The site coordinator and staff will always be there. And I did want to just make a mention that only people that have been trained and in test security is allowed past the check-in table. So please rest assured that we do make sure that your children, once they move past that point, someone is always monitoring them. They are not allowed just to roam the halls. If we are at a college, if we are at a community center, wherever we may be, we're going to have hall monitors that will be walking and moving about. So we are definitely very, very protective of all of the students that are in our care at any given time.
Any other questions? Well, that's very informative. I always learn something each year with testing. And I also want to take this opportunity to say that we are now accepting applications for the spring semester. So families who are interested in attending University of View Academy can go to our website and submit an application. In addition to that, Thanksgiving break is a great time for students, if they're missing some assignments, to get caught up and be ready for that end of the second 9 weeks. That's December 19th.
Yes.
And yeah, so yeah, after next week, we're already in December. So please, families, just encourage our students to continue to persevere and finish strong. Thanks again, Ms. Ethel Teer. As always, you always provide good information for our families. And I know that the students who are testing the first week of December are going to do exceptionally well. Absolutely. So, thanks, everyone.
You know how. Let's talk UVA. We're exploring, learning, growing